All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another Taj Tuesdays. Today is going to be a very special edition. I would like you guys to go ahead and meet Darleen Santore, known to many as Coach Dar, as a board-certified occupational therapist, business executive, author, and speaker. She is passionate about helping people break through barriers to achieve their goals. As a mental and conditioning coach, she blends a knowledge of science, psychology, and achievement with her personal passion for life to help individuals, corporate executives, and professional athletes and teams aim higher and achieve more. Thank you very much for joining us, Coach Dar.
Thanks so much, Taj.
Thank you. And we also had my main man, Isaiah Ekejiuba, also known as Ike. Me and Ike first met back in 2005, our rookie year with the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders. And today we're going to share today we're tackling mental health. And the whole thing about the transition, be it if you're transitioning from one job to something else or whatever kind of transition you have in your life. Mainly, I'll go ahead and share my story about my transition from football to what I would say the normal life. Some people don't even want to say it's like normal life because we're all normal people, but there is a difference in the way we live after we leave the big show. Coach Dar, thanks for joining.
So glad to be here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. The mental health topic has been kind of taboo for a lot of professional athletes, grown men, other people, even within my circle that, I share things with, and it's a hard conversation to have, right?
Yep.
And that's what we're here to do. I would like to try to bring some kind of awareness to everybody, let you guys know that it's okay to talk about mental health issues. You'll talk about your feelings, right? I see like a lot of players over the years since I finished playing reach out to me and ask me about my experience, how I transitioned from, football going into, getting a regular job and, being with my family, times like that, and really, really how to balance it all. And I also have Ike here to help share his experience as well. And, Coach Dar, Dar's here with us. She's going to go ahead and give us her perspective on things. And I'm sure she has a lot of input on, how to achieve your goals. And we had a conversation the other day about getting out of the slump.
Yeah.
Right. Just getting out of your sunken place and really trying to find ways to find the better things in life or find a new passion. Right. For a lot of NFL players and a lot of people in professional sports, growing up, that is our dream. Right. That is the number one challenge for us, is to make it to the NFL. We work so hard to, lifting weights, making sure we got all of our grades right, making sure we stay out of the newspapers. There's a whole lot of things that go into all those years that we put into it to achieve that goal, to make it to the NFL, right? And there's a lot of stuff that comes along with that, right? It's not just lifting weights. It's a major part of it is attitude. And, right, for a defensive player like, Ike and I, you are taught to rip heads off, right? That's what that's what we do. So I would just like to go ahead and share with you guys first a little bit about my transition. We all know I went out to Oakland, like I said, back in 2005. Ike and I were on the team. We played with each other for a little while, and after we parted ways, after I left Oakland, I came out here to Arizona and played a long career here for about 8 years. And after that 8 years, after it was all over, after it was all said and done, I felt personally like I still had that aggressive mentality. It's hard, like for I don't know. I was very passionate about my playing and things like that, and my attitude, that fire that I played with all the time, right? The aggressiveness, stuff like that. After I was done playing, I didn't really have that, a place for me to exert all that, all that energy, all that aggression, things like that. If I'm having a bad day and I'm playing football, I feel bad for that center that's playing against me that day. You know what I mean? Just what? Oh, I'm having a bad day. The whole offense, the scout team, and I feel bad for them. But when you come out of playing, you don't really have that. Well, I didn't have that, right? I had a baby girl, right? I had a baby girl.
Girl dad.
Yeah, so it was a little troublesome to me because I found myself just being mad, right? So Coach Dar, it was so many times where I'm finding myself driving behind somebody that's not going the speed limit. Yeah, in Arizona, there's a lot of elderly folk that so it makes sense, but for some reason inside it was just bubble. I would get so mad. And I'm not gonna run the person off the road or anything like that. It's just I'm gonna sit in there. I might say a few foul words, but I would just for some reason it would just annoy me. And I'm always trying to get in front of everybody, and I was just a real negative person. Like I saw negative in everything, right? My wife said I had to stop looking at the world glass half full because, like, I don't know, I was just mad. Like we would go to lunch, and then she'll make plans to go to lunch. I'm like, okay, let's go to lunch. But then on the way home from lunch, she want to stop at a store or something, or pick something up, and then I'm just like, you said we were going to lunch. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? But
it actually does, in a way, because of what you're saying. Because of football to the transition and stuff.
Yeah. So and I just found myself being very short with people.
Yeah.
And it's like all kind of stuff. And I'm calling my brother. I'm asking him if he has this like, does it bother you when you're sitting behind somebody and they're driving slow? Because I'm trying to figure out, like, does this stuff bother anybody else? Because it was just bothering me so much. And like you remember Milo. I had Milo out in California. It was my pug, and Milo passed away, and like for a long time, I was just messed up. Like I wasn't eating. Just like I love playing video games. And like video games weren't exciting. There was no movie that I could crack a smile at. I was down, right? And it was a bad time. But that kind of carried over to the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Was I had to I'm sitting at home, and my wife was supposed to bring Zoe to dance practice. And again, like going along with the last second things, like for some reason, I just get so mad. If I didn't plan it, then I had to do it. Even if it was like the littlest thing, it just wouldn't sit right with me. So I remember going to the dance school, and she had groceries in the back. So she took my truck, and I took her car to meet her because she had a bunch of groceries and stuff. And she didn't park next to me. And for some reason, I got so mad that she didn't park next to me because I had to walk, 5 yards to get to my truck? You know what I mean? It's easy to sit back and laugh at it now, but like I was seriously mad at this point. And I went over to the truck and I tried to get in it, and like the back seat was down, so I couldn't put my seat back. And then I was boiling. Like, why did she put the seat back? So I'm thinking about all this stuff to myself, and I'm pulling away. And what really, hit my heart was I saw my wife carrying a whole bunch of bags to another car, and I didn't help her. I left, and I was angry with her. You know what I mean? And that's not me. That's the woman that I love, right? So at that point, that point, I was like, there was just so much stuff that I would always contemplate about and think about. Like, it was like, what are my guys doing? I know I'm not the best at keeping contact with people, calling, picking up the phone, calling and stuff like that. And I did miss the camaraderie. I do have a good, solid group of guys out here in Arizona. But, it's just, I don't know. I didn't think, I landed on my feet pretty good after I stopped playing. I don't have nothing to complain about. But it was just hard for me to, like, I don't know. I love the game. And then it's gone, right? So it took a while for me to go ahead and realize my problems, right? See and recognize all the little things that I was doing. I sought help, right? And now today, you have to go pretty far to get me irritated. And it's almost to the point, like, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, man, like, should I say something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, should I be a little more strict? Like with my daughter, like she does something, I'm like, all right, Zoe, come on, put it down. Let's go. But like, should I be more strict? Like, oh, why you spill all this stuff all over the place? Get to the room. Like, it's. So I'm still trying to find that, the balance. I don't want to be, too crazy, but I don't want to be too lenient, because you still got to be the discipline. So finding that balance, is key for me, right now, right? And I try to find it. I'm doing things, some of the things that help me get out of the slump, right? For one, I started talking. I sought help from doctors and stuff like that, so I recognized the problem, and then they gave me solutions, and just simple things to do around the house, and it helps out so much that, like, my family's better for it, right? People aren't walking around on eggshells around me. You know what I mean? It's better quality of life. You know what I mean? Just and I'm always doing stuff. And that's why I kind of, Ike and I had a conversation out in Napa, and we were sharing stories about transitioning and stories about other people like that. And that's like the first time that was like my first therapy, really, with other guys that went through the same kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it was like, it felt good. Not only did I have a good lunch, but I left feeling like I just left the shrink's office or something. Like it was therapy. You know what I mean? I was like, oh man, I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? It's hard when you think you're the only one, right? Because if you think you're the only one, you don't want to go to talk to nobody about it, because you're worried about how they're going to feel about you, or what they're going to say. Oh, Todd, he's weak-minded. You know what I mean? There's nothing weak about me, right? I go in the back alley with anybody. You know what I mean? There's just certain things that you need to be able to speak about, right? And when you do speak about them, it's like a relief, right? And even right now, I feel a little bit better right now. So and that's kind of where I got the whole mindset of going ahead and trying to help people, with their transition, or help them get mentally fit, things like that, through my past experiences. And I understand how good it feels when you talk about it with people, when you go ahead and you make the changes and you see how life around you is better, right? Everybody's happy, everybody's doing good, and there's no storm clouds in the house ever. It's nice. It's nice. But I don't want to take up all the time. So I'm sure I can, Coach Dar, I'm sure you have some things you would like to share with us.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm sweating.
Taj, I just want to chime in there, because for people watching, like, I love this so much, because this is real. And one, either people are watching that, don't realize what people go through when they're in sports, or what they go, what happens after. Two, there's people that are watching that have been through the sport, and they're going, yeah, I felt the same damn way. Like, I understand exactly what you're saying. And when I said to you, you're like, Is it wrong? Here's the thing. The system creates you to, you know, that is your persona. That's the personality when you're in sports, to create that, right? It's no different than the military. You're trained to turn on. And it's not that easy to go from turn on to turn off. And that is something that's why it's so important. And, you know, thankfully in sports now, especially more now than it was like 15 years ago, even 5 years ago, but just having that outlet to talk while you're going through it in the sport would be really helpful, because you don't know what to do with this rage when you're outside of it, or even off season. You know, you have off season, you have your families, and it's like, I'm so used to being aggressive and go, how do I just be like, you know, girl dad and play and hang out and do all that, even during season. And then you get out of season and now you have this, you're like, wait a minute, where's the camaraderie? Number two, where's the structure? You're so used to having structure all the time, and now structure is gone, and everything has been like, you get up, you train, you do this, and now the game's over, and it's like, what do I do with my day? So you need purpose, and then you definitely need to talk about the emotions. And just like you guys had that nice time in Napa, but that camaraderie, I'm always trying to connect guys, especially cross sports too, because it happens everywhere, that you just want to hear that someone else is going through it, that there was something, you know, like you dealt with that too. And just by speaking it and knowing you're not alone gets rid of so much anxiety, because you start thinking, is this just me? Is this something wrong with me? And it's not something wrong. It's just something that you have to work through. No different than if someone gets diabetes and they have to work through that. When you're going through mental health changes, you got to work on it. You got to treat it so that you could get ahead of it. So that you could even maybe keep it from going anywhere, or that you could actually just take care of it, and it's something that you work on. Talking about it, obviously being a therapist and working in sports, I'm a huge proponent of, and it's not like, you don't need to sit there and talk hours about like past life and all that. It's like, here are real tools that you could use in your day to help you like make it through this, whatever it is, during the season, after the sport. So I just wanted to comment for people watching, like, your story is so good because it's so real, and that this is happening all the time. And vulnerability is actually strength. When guys come and they actually talk about it, it's one of the strongest things that a guy could do. It's actually easier for you to make the hit than it is for you to talk.
Oh, for sure.
That's true.
Hands down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's definitely, you know, and you know, that's what we want to do, right? We want to start the conversation. So even if, you know, if you guys in the comments, you know, if you want to reach out to me personally in a you know, instant message, or if you have any question that you want to answer, you know, just leave them in the comments. You know, we're here to share, right? We're here to share. And I know some people that are watching right now, and, you know, that are going through a struggle. And that's what I want to do. I want to share my struggle with you, so that you know that you're not the only one that goes through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this like I'm sorry, I keep talking so much, man. I know you want to go ahead and share your story.
Nah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I mean, it was the same way for me, right? You get to the pinnacle of this sport, right? You're playing with some of the best athletes in the world, and you know, you feel accomplished. You know, I was in the NFL for 8 years, and 7 of them I was actively playing. So having a bad day was, you know, just as long as, you know, you get to practice or you get to a game and you're able to take out that aggression or whatever it is that's bothering you, and it kind of clears your conscience. You become, you know, you feel more free. But, you know, at the end of my career, when, you know, I found out I couldn't play anymore, I still had all that aggression built up. Right. I still had all that anger, like all those issues that I kind of pushed to the side because I could go to practice and take it out on somebody. I didn't have that outlet anymore. Right. And it, you know, became scary because that's, you know, one of the things Taj said. People around you are walking on eggshells, right? Because they don't know the smallest things set you off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, somebody driving the speed limit, doing what they're supposed to do, you get mad at that. You know, there's a line somewhere. You know, there's always been a line, but you never even thought about it because you always had an outlet. Now it becomes a problem. So for me, one of the biggest things for me was when I left the game, like I became resentful almost.
Mm.
You know, just my anger. No, I don't think it anybody in particular, but it's just the more I let things build up, the more angry that I would get. And it just kind of built up. Because growing up, you're thought that, you know, you don't speak about, like, you know, mental health. When I was growing up and I heard that, you know, at no point would I kind of relate it to what it is now. You know,
Right.
it was something that was kind of taboo to speak about. Nobody talked about it. And, you know, if you were going out to hang out with your friends and, you know, you said something, oh, I'm depressed, you might get made fun of. Like it was something people, you know, that was kind of how we grew up. Oh man, what do you mean you're depressed? Get over it, right? And it was kind of that mentality that you hear that enough that you kind of stop bottling your feelings up. So that was one of the things for me when I finally left the game. I was angry, and then another thing is I hadn't graduated from University of Virginia. I had 2 classes left to graduate to get my electrical engineering degree. And just getting out the game, I think it took me probably 2 years of, you know, being in pain and just no motivation before I was able to, you know, get up and, all right, you know, I could take these classes, I could finish up and kind of have an outlet. But before that, I was just numb, you know, and being numb, you would kind of find ways to kind of get rid of that stress, or maybe I'm gonna go have some drinks, right? I'll do that. Oh, well, one drink turns into a lot more drinks, and then because it brings that numb feeling where you don't have to deal with what the real issue is. So I kind of went along that path for a long time, and you know, I had no energy. You know, I'm angry for no reason at little things. My poor wife, you know, just she's the one that's closest to me trying to make sure I'm okay. But instead of kind of accepting the help that she's giving, I'm looking at her like, you know, she's the enemy. She's like, why are you calling me out on, you know, I look at it now like, why are you telling me the truth, right? Basically, that's what I was saying to her. So it was a lot of anger and like a lot of fear because I didn't know who to talk to, or, you know, had in the mindset that I'm in this fight alone. Right. And that's one of the main things that people kind of struggle with. That if you think you're in the fight alone, it becomes a harder fight. It becomes the uphill battle is a lot harder. So just having people to talk to, you know, I just kind of found myself when I would go and, you know, get in talk to one of my teammates or friends, I kind of go back to the old me, you know, like, oh, well, I kind of recognize this guy. And then as soon as that was over, I'd go back to being angry, you know? So it was a pattern that I could have, I'm sure I could have figured out earlier if I really wanted to, but it was just one of those things that I kept pushing the issue aside.
Yeah.
And to say, you know, you've played sports for such a long time, you have a schedule, you know, there's a dedication, even when you don't feel like doing something, you know, you have to do it. So that's the kind of motivation to get things done. When I got done, I didn't have that motivation. You know, well, why go work out? Why go be active? Right. I'm not doing anything. There's nothing to do. So I'll just sit there, mope around the house, look for something to get me angry so I could yell at somebody. And it wasn't healthy, you know, just no energy at all for my kids to go play, my boys. So it was really tough to kind of realize that, man, if you don't talk about this, it's only going to get worse, right? It's one of those things that it's going to keep building up until you explode for no reason and it's all going to be your fault, right? You know, and I went through a period of time where it was kind of finger pointing. Well, you know, if I hadn't been released, you know, I'd be doing better. So it's always trying to blame somebody else instead of, you know, kind of looking back and so what's the real problem? The real problem is, you know, the common denominator was me. It was always me, the common denominator, instead of pointing the finger at everybody else. So talking to some teammates, and it's like, wait, you feel those same things too? And it's a huge relief. It's like Taj said, when we met and we talked in Napa, it was a great conversation. Just like, oh man, I get up and I feel A, B, C, and D. And Taj is like, well, yeah, I do too. And all of a sudden, you're not in this fight alone. You know, it feels kind of easier to realize that, yeah, if I'm not dealing with this alone, this is, you know, this is kind of a we problem instead of a me problem. So it was very helpful for me personally. And another big thing, finding a hobby. You know, if you had a schedule or something to do for the longest time and all of a sudden you don't anymore, that really bothered me, right? Because I'd had so much structure. Even if you say, all right, I'm a self-starter or whatever, just having somebody to push you that little bit, it did wonders for me. So I think one of the great things for me, one of the biggest releases is I started coaching my kids' soccer team. And there's one of the things that, you know, kids have this innocence, this joy about them that we kind of forget as you get older because, you know, real life happens and you kind of think about it like that. But going out there, I mean, I felt like a lot of my stress was just lifted, you know, watching the kids play, run around and just like, this is how it's supposed to be. This is what kind of makes me happy. So it was tough to kind of realize that I was the problem and, you know, I needed, you know, in order to live a good life, you know, with my wife and kids, that I had to kind of look at the man in the mirror and realize that, you know, the moment you stop pointing fingers, that's the moment you kind of realize that things are going to be okay if you can work on it. So that's kind of my story.
You know, I just wanted to say, I love that because once you have the awareness, like then you could actually tackle it. But until you have the awareness of like that, it's something that you've got to deal with. It's, you know, you're just everyone, all of us will be like, well, who do we have to blame today? Because then we're not dealing with it. And then as soon as you had that, and as soon as you had an outlet, and then as soon as you just I love with the kids, like let yourself in flow. And kids do an amazing thing of getting us to get things like not take it so seriously and have some fun about things because we forget to have fun. So like all of that combined allowed you to be able to have a release for you, which got you have the greatest smile ever.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you guys just are happy and it's like in a different place now, but you didn't get to that different place unless you did the work, both of you. Right?
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Another thing that I struggled with, you know, everybody around me like looks up to me, right? I'm like a leader in my family, so I always felt like I had to, you know, be the strong man, you know, and like that post that everybody else leans on, right? And you know, I'm always talking to everybody else about, you know, their problems and stuff like that, and you know, trying to figure, you know, this is back when, you know, I was still an angry guy, you know, and trying to help people out, things like that. And I always say to myself, like, well, you know, if I'm sitting here helping everybody else with their problems, you know, I don't want to give off that feeling like, oh, you know, Taj has problems, you know, because then maybe they don't feel as confident, or maybe they don't want to put more on my shoulders, or, you know, something like that. So there's like all kind of stuff, you know, these kind of thoughts going through my head and stuff like that, you know, at the time. So it's like, I can see people dealing with that now. And it's, you know, that's something else that, you know, you need to overcome, right? So it's pretty difficult.
I was one of those. I was always great at kind of pointing people's problems out and telling them, you know, if you do this, it'll kind of, you know, this is why you're mad. You know, I was always good at finding that out in other people, which is, you know, the easiest way to protect yourself, right? You kind of project it on, you know, onto everybody else. And, you know, that it's tough, you know, when your situation changes, and it's tough to get that mindset. Like I was saying, I was in the NFL for 8 years. And then after that, what I finally realized, I'm like, all right, maybe I should go try to get a job, right? But nobody would hire me. I had no work experience, you know? So it was, well, what are you gonna do now? You've been celebrated for so long. Now you gotta kind of get back in line, and, you know, this is what life is. So that was another tough realization for me, that, oh, well, I gotta, you know, it's not it's not everything that I thought it was gonna be. This is gonna be a little transition right now. So yeah, you've been in the league for 8 years, but right now you are unemployed and no college degree. That's what it kind of boiled down to. So it's like, all right, well, what are we gonna do to change that? And you have to ask those kind of questions. It's not just react to it. You have to say, what do I do to change my situation? And it's not easy, but, you know, it's baby steps.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's tough. It's tough, and it's like that whole you know, stigma, the taboo thing. You know, I don't want you to think that I'm weak because, you know, I'm going through it's like having, so, well, you know, if you tear your ACL, right, it's going to take some time for you to get back. You tear that ACL, you need to go ahead and get your full body right to be able to go back on the field.
Right.
But I feel, you know, just the same way, like with your mental health, right? You have some problems going on. You need to iron them out. That's why, you know, I heard this a lot. You know, when you walk through that locker room door, leave all your problems outside. You know, like leave everything out there. You know, don't bring that stuff here. And then when you leave here, leave everything. Don't take it home with you. Right? Easier said than done.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. But, you know, it's all about trying to find that, you know, identifying the problem, and then, you know, and seeking help, or like I said, you know, pointing the finger at yourself and saying, you know, I need to make these changes. You know, those things that I need to do.
I think one of the great things that's happening now is that people are coming around and changing that mindset, that being that talking about your problems is a weakness. You know, and you know, it was great to see some famous guys kind of do it, right?
Yeah.
You talk about the NBA, DeMar DeRozan.
Yep.
He was
Kevin Love.
First, yeah, Kevin Love right after him. And, you know, when you see guys that you look up to, I mean, you see some of these professional athletes, you know, you figure, oh, you're living your best life, you're, you know, kind of superhuman. But when they come out and they kind of say, hey, yes, you look at me on TV every day, but I have some of these same problems that you do. That kind of breaks down those barriers, that thought that, you know, it's a weakness, because you're looking at, these are some of the best athletes in the world right here.
Yeah.
They're actually talking about their problem and saying that, you know, if they didn't talk about it, they wouldn't be, you know, as effective as a person, or as a, you know, just a leader. So that conversation has been amazing, because it, you know, it's starting to change the culture of that mentality.
I mean, we have so many guys, you know, right when that came out, I was traveling, because I was the mental conditioning coach for the Phoenix Suns. So right when that all hit and it came out, they had me on the team for that purpose, you know, to be talking about it. So we kind of already got ahead of the game a little bit, but it wasn't talked about, you know, in the news. And then that really allowed people to go, oh, like, we can talk about this, and people do deal with this. And it's not something that if I say, it's going to affect me. Now, I will still say, because this is real talk, that sometimes guys still feel, hey, if I talk about it, though, is it going to be on, like, my card when it comes trade time? And that's something that we still have to work through for anyone, because we don't want there to be a stigma. But it's better for them to talk about it, because no different than when you hurt your leg, you got to let it heal, and then you're better and you come back faster. If we could get ahead of something that you're starting to feel and deal with it right away, you're going to come back faster and be able to perform better versus not talking about it. And that's what happened with Kevin Love, where all of a sudden he had panic attacks, like literally in the middle of the game. He had to go to the locker room. He's like, I'm having a heart attack. And it was because his grandmother had died and he had never talked about it. And it came up later. So it's a really good way for us to have this conversation, to say it is always better to talk about it and get it out to someone, wherever you want to go, confidentially even, but it's real. People deal with this, anxiety and depression. And one of the players that I had worked with, a pitcher, had literally in the World Series was having panic attacks, but still had to get out there on the mound and with thousands of people and pull it together, right? And so how do you do that? And I think people don't realize the pressure that comes on you all, that you just, it's like, boom, look what happened with Kobe. As soon as Kobe passed, we had guys on the court. And I was like, you're saying mental health matters, but you literally, like, one of our guys just went down and they're visibly crying, going, how am I supposed to pull this together? Mm-hmm. And that's when, like, there had to be intense, like, we got to have conversations around it. But it's becoming more natural that it's okay to talk about it, and it's actually better if you do, and we'll get ahead of it. And I just want to say this other thing too, that mental health is like physical health. You go and lift to get stronger. Well, you should be wanting to work on your mindset to get mentally more resilient. So you're not just waiting for the fall to happen, or you're just not waiting to where that anger comes out. You've been working on this, just like you've been lifting and working out. That's what I do with, when I'm working on mindset before there's a mental health challenge. It's about staying healthy mentally and physically.
No, I agree. You talk about that first conversation that you have might be awkward, right?
Right.
And it's like, if you're gonna play a sport or get to a level, at no point did you become a professional the first time you caught a ball or made a tackle or shot a basket, right? It's all about repetition. So that's what one of the things I found, just having a good base of people to talk to.
Yeah.
Right? First conversation might be awkward. First 10 conversations might be awkward, but sooner or later you kind of find a groove, you find your steps, and then slowly go from there. So that's, having friends that are going through the same thing, it was, we would, before I talked to Taj, we'd catch up, the how you doing and all this, but never really go to the, to the root of the issue, or, how are you really doing?
Right.
And that's an important question to ask. So just having people to talk to, is, that's one of the things that kind of helped me, because it doesn't even have to be somebody, in the same field as you are playing sports. It's just somebody that can listen, and they might even share something that you didn't even think of, and then all of a sudden it becomes easier, to kind of see. So that's kind of been my experience.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Coach Dar, go ahead.
No, I would say it's working for you both. Because seriously, for people watching, hearing about like the struggle you really went through, and then seeing you both right now in such a really like peaceful, joyful, you're happy. It's not that life's perfect, but you're at a place where you're like, you know how to handle it. But you didn't get here like that. And I think like this is so helpful for people to see, because you're on the other side of it, but you did the work for it.
Yeah, it sure didn't happen overnight. I didn't wake up the next day and like, hey, how you doing? Birds chirping and stuff. But we got there. We got there, and like I said, it's just quality of life all around it's so much better. It's so much better.
Gratitude too. That's the other thing too, is like we're still going to go through like all that's going on in the world. We're all feeling it. You feel like your soul hurts some days because of what's happening, and that can mentally play on you. And then, you go through things and it's like, okay, what can I control? What can I do today? How can I help? And then what do we have to be grateful for? Right now, all of us are healthy at this moment talking, which is really amazing. And, you know, we're able to be here and be talking about it. So I feel like the state of gratitude, while we hear it, it's not just hearsay, but when you could put yourself in perspective, and even the guys that have been talking about going back to play with no fans and what is it going to be like and all the stuff that's coming up for them. And I'll say, you got to shift it to perspective. Like, no matter how hard it's going to be, you still get to play the game right now if you do. And like, I have a mentor that went through the Holocaust, like literally went through something like that. Some days I sit there and I think about what they went through and I'm like, how can I even feel, you know, about some of the things I feel? Because perspective. So we just keep shifting perspective, and it allows us to show up in gratitude, and we're still far blessed than, you know, than how it could be. So.
Yeah. You know, it's so many times, you know, you hear stories about people who, you know, have these like perfect lives, you know, like for me, I would say Anthony Bourdain, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was sad what happened with him.
Yeah.
I always looked at that show like, man, how do I get that job? You know what I mean? And I kind of envy the guy. He's traveling around the world. He's able to eat all these different food, hanging out with good people, but he still had his demons, right? He was still going down. I'm not sure what he was going through, yeah, but I'm sure that it was something pretty serious, and like I'm not sure. You know, did he talk to somebody about it? You know what I mean? Like, there's so much more to. I mean, it's complicated. It's complicated. You see a lot of different, you know, celebrities and you know, these high profile people that just they have mental breakdowns, right? I remember Britney Spears shaved her whole head off. Kanye West, I don't know, did whatever Kanye did. You know, it happens to everybody, right? It's not just it's not just the professional athletes, you know, things like that. It's all around, and it's a problem in America. People suffer from it, and we want to try to bring a message out there to everybody, especially you guys listening today, that, you know, if you are struggling, you know, you're not the only one. You're not the only one that went through the struggle. And again, like I said, if you're going through a personal struggle right now and you're watching this, do not be ashamed to message me.
Right.
Shoot me a message. And I don't care if we haven't talked since high school. That's fine with me. You know what I mean? I would love to catch up. I would love to talk about your situation, right? You know, I went through my struggle. You just heard my struggle. There's a lot more to it. I only have so much time to talk about it. But you know, but if you would like, we could. You know, I'm sorry about it. We could talk about it. You know, we could talk. I'm here. I
think another thing too is, you know, just access to social media, right?
Oh, yeah.
You think about, you know, you follow somebody's page, you know, everybody's gonna post their best life, you know, and you sitting there and you're jealous of somebody that who could be in a worse situation than you, right? Because it's hard, you know, if you see everybody you're following posting their vacation pictures or, you know, got a car or something like that, you kind of look down on yourself like, man, well, what am I doing different than them? You know? So that's another thing. It's just everybody's situation is different.
Totally.
Nobody, I mean, it's rare that you're going to see somebody go on social media and, you know, post what's really going on in their life, right? They could had a fight, had a bad day, all of a sudden they post a picture where they're smiling and, you know, life is good. And, you know, that's kind of the image they portray. So if you're looking at everybody like, oh man, I just looked at 10 people's feeds and everybody's happy. Like, what's wrong with me? Everybody's partying. Like, what is wrong with me? And, you know, that's another thing. We can't lump everybody in the same kind of group and just put them in the same bucket, right? Your situation is different. It's worse than some and it's better than others. And you just have to kind of take it for what it is. It's not, oh, I'm going to try to live like these people. all those cars in the picture could be rented, you know.
Yeah. They could just be standing in front of random cars.
That's what I'm saying. Somebody could have just been fired, but just, you know, posting pictures. Oh, I want to be like that. No, I don't want to be fired, you know. So it's just different strokes for different folks, you know. You got to kind of find your lane. I think there's, you know, negative and bad news travels a lot faster than good news.
Totally.
So what you try to do is, you know, if you're gonna read the news, you're gonna see a lot of negativity. It's gonna bring you down, you know, it's gonna change your mindset. So having one or two positive posts to kind of follow, you know, if that's, you know, that's what you do. Like, you know, I scroll through. There's a couple people that I follow that if I'm in a bad mood, like, all right, I could read their post and it's, you know, it's real life. It's saying, hey, you're not in this alone. And, you know, situations like that kind of brings me back to reality that life isn't perfect, but, you know, you got to make it work.
Yeah. Coach Dar, I have a question from the comment section for you. It reads, how do you feel about consuming too much media and news, especially over the last few weeks, and how does it tie into mental health?
Ike, you like teed that one up, buddy. That was perfect. Well, I'm going to follow Ike's lead on that because number one, I feel consuming too much of it is not good for our mental health. There are studies that are proven, and this is not a knock on all media because I don't like blanket statements because that doesn't mean that there's not a good channel out there or a station. I will say moderation is key. I don't listen to the news. I read the news because I don't want to hear the tone of voices and their fear to come into my subconscious or fill it. If I want to go, I'll go to where I want to go to find out what I need to know in the world, and I read it so I can consume it when and how much. That is so key for getting yourself in the right state. And the first thing, I don't look at that when I wake up. So I would offer to people to not, when you wake up, to go right to like, let me turn on the news today, or let me turn on, you know, whatever station you want, start listening. And I give this tip all the time, but like right now we have all of those, if I say it, she's going to turn on, but like Alexa or any of those things like in the house, she's going to like start playing one of my songs or something. But if you set your alarm from that and say, hey, I want my alarm set at like 6:30 at this time to this song, play music or play something. So right in the morning when it goes off, it's already something that gets you hyped up and ready. Get yourself mentally ready. Don't go to the news right away or start scrolling right away. Like that is literally going to take you. Yeah. So today you guys are making the shift after this. I'm coaching. We got to make the shift because otherwise I want you to know subconsciously it starts to go in your brain in 3 minutes. So even if you don't feel it right away, later on in the day, you could be like, gosh, I like feel off. It's because your brain is starting to think about something you digested earlier. So don't let it go there and do it. Here's the thing. The mind will want to take control of you. So you control the mind in the sense of you determine when you're going to get it. And just like the whole thing of like, make your bed right when you wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you'll accomplish. Just by you saying, I'm not going to go and scroll social media, or I'm not going to go look at media right away, you took control, and that's already a win for the day. You could do it even 20 minutes or an hour later, but you don't do it the moment you open your eyes. You do something that opens your eyes, like meditation or prayer or breath work, or get up and just like start moving to a good song. Do something that you control the state you're going to be in that moment. It doesn't control you, because otherwise then that runs your day and you didn't run your day. So no, I am not a huge proponent of this. And I feel like we got to get control of it, because social, just like Ike said, we're in this conspiracy. We're in this comparison, that too. We're in a comparison there, you know, whole setup where you see someone else and you see someone's life and you're like, why aren't I there? Here's the thing. You control what you can. Go try to be the best version you can be. I'm a faith-based person. I say all the time, like, if God had you here with a gift or a time, go own that and have God confidence. If you don't have something that someone else doesn't have, that's okay. Make your world how you can make it work for you, and then go serve. Go worry about serving more than who has what car. And if you're blessed to go have that blessing and have something in your life, great. But then you know what I want you to do? Turn around and figure out how to share it. Because we're not meant to collect all this stuff for ourselves either. And if you want to get out of the mental health state, the number one thing you could do is by helping someone else. It clears you in a second.
You know, Coach Dar, I'm guilty. I've been waking up and watching the news ever since I was checking for snow days back in Connecticut.
We lived and died by the weather there, by the way. People don't get it here in Arizona.
Do I have school today? Do I have school?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a delay? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
just have to worry about the sun. How hot
oh,
is it
yeah. And Habibis, the Habubus, the giant
Habibs, the Habibs.
The Habibs, yeah, that's crazy. So, Ike, I have a question. How do you keep a level head after playing football, and what keeps you centered?
Having a good support system. I think that's the most important thing. Be it people that played, people that didn't play, having, you know, a mentor that you could talk to.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part of it, right? Because even after playing for a long time, you know, some people don't achieve everything that they want to do. If you start playing a sport, you figure, all right, to be the best, you have to win a championship, right? If you're going to be the best in that sport.
Mm-hmm.
I never did that. I was always, you know, jealous of people that did. But what do? You go around people that, all right, well, they might not have played a sport, but they're still living a good life. They're still happy. They're still making things, you know, at this point, past my playing career, like, well, that's what I'm aspiring to be, you know? I'm aspiring to be a good husband, a good father, a good neighbor, you know? And it's just those little things. So you find a good example, be it, you know, somebody you could, you know, see in person, or somebody you could pick up the phone, you know, and talk to from time to time. And, you know, that's one of the hardest things for me. But, you know, when I stopped was, well, I don't want to talk to you. I don't have the time or the energy to, you know, kind of talk to you. But when I started doing that, it was kind of like, you know, the mentality you're talking about, Coach Dar. Mm-hmm. Having somebody to kind of change your mind about something and, you know, not just be negative about it is, it brightens your day. It changes you from being down of, here we go, another long day, to, all right, well, here's the day. What are we going to kind of go through it? So I think having like a good support system, people that, you know, they might not understand exactly what you're going through, but they'll be able to offer little pieces of advice to kind of get you going through your day. And that for me is kind of how I stay grounded.
Trying to, like, also, you know, something else that we talk about is, like, you know, finding new goals in life, right? You know, after you already achieved that NFL goal, like you said, now you want to be, you know, the best father you could be. You know, you want to build, you know, your family up. You know, be a good neighbor. You know, I mean, there's different goals that you set for you. It's like you got to go find new goals, right? I found new goals myself. They kind of like the same thing as you, right? You know, I want to be a great father, and, you know, I want to help people who have similar situations as me, and I want to do something that I didn't really do as much as I wanted to do when I was playing, and that's giving back. You know, these are all new passions that I have and new goals, right? So it's like, you know, like Ike said, you know, you get to the NFL and they, like, you know, you set yourself for new goals. All right, well, I'm in the NFL, you know, well, all right, now I want to be all pro, you know, and now I want to be a champion, you know, all this stuff. It's like the same thing. You got to keep finding different ways to drive your stuff, right? And, you know, it's like for to go ahead and piggyback off what Ike said, like, what really keeps me grounded is my goals, you know, and you know, my family, you know, my family are a part of my goals. So all that stuff combined, you know, really helps keep me grounded, you know, and moving forward, for sure. Another question we have here says, this is a question from one of our friends. Like, you remember Rich that came out to California. It says, I often talk about my brother Tony. Is he ever going to be a guest on Taj Tuesday? I have no idea. I feel like that's kind of off topic. But if you'd love to come on the show, I'd love to have him on the show. Sorry about that. Coach Dar, this one is for you. What are some of the signs that you need help, and what are some of the coping mechanisms I can use during the day? So, just like some of the things that me and I, touched on, like the short fuse, things like that. What are some of the things that, people could start to recognize to really start figuring it out?
So you want to just look at, just like you both shared, which is one, like, do you find that you're really on edge more, and that it's really messing with your day to day, like that, just like you said, Taj, you're in the car and you're starting to get like this rage behind the wheel, or, you come home and just something as simple as you're starting to lose almost like your coping, or you don't really have coping skills. And so things are just starting to really trigger you quickly, where people are saying things like, hey, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you. I don't know whether like you're going to be okay one minute or you're going to like burst out another. The other thing is go the other way. Say it's not anger, but it just starts to be sadness or depression, where you start to become more introverted. Start to look at, are you pulling away more from people? And are you starting to isolate more? Because if you're starting to pull away more and you're not making connection and you're starting to feel down, that's sometimes the onset of depression when it starts to come in. The other thing that you want to look for is anxiety. Are you starting to feel like your heart rate just starts racing out of nowhere, and you start worrying, and that the thoughts just start coming into your head and you don't know how to stop them? And it be anything that starts to become where it's affecting your daily function, that's when you really know that there's starting to be a shift, that you no longer have the ability to monitor it and create, tools to adjust, and it's starting to take over. And if you could start to get ahead of it, no different than, I want to keep reminding, like if someone does have diabetes and they're like, hey, I feel jittery or off, and it's like, oh, I didn't eat, I got to go take care of it. Well, watch your mental state of mind where, oh, I'm starting to feel this. Maybe I have to now, I'm going to throw on like a meditation app. I'm going to even put a video on of comedy. Comedy really does so good for our health when we laugh, like belly laugh. Go be around kids and play, like do something silly with them. Those are like quick things you could do at home that could change your state. It might be that you actually get out of your house. I know COVID has really been extra hard for people, but getting out and being in nature, like getting outside and playing. One of the things that I actually do is I carry around like these bouncy balls. It's kind of one of my things. They're like, oh, you've been with Coach Dar, because when someone's getting serious, I'll bounce the ball, which bounces everywhere. And people are like, what the hell is going on? But it makes them laugh, because in that moment, it's like you're pulling out a bouncy ball, like a 5-year-old playing bouncy ball. I'm like, these are the best things. It changes your state. And then you're like running around trying to chase this ball. But what I just did is distracted your mind from that hamster wheel to then something funny. That's the same thing with watching comedy or calling a friend or getting outside. So the key is to monitor what's going on. And then if you do notice a change, though, what I would say is you've got to let someone know, because if you don't let someone know and you don't know these tools, like there's like a list of tools we could talk about, then you're not going to know what to do. And then you're just going to go, like you guys said, where, man, I'm on this island on my own, which then you don't go and do something about it and you get more frustrated or you don't heal from it. So look at some of the things that start coming through. Go ahead and try to do things that change your state, and then talk to someone about it to find some coping skills, or even just having an outlet to work through it.
Thank you very much, Coach Dar. And you hit on pretty much everything that, I went through during my transition, as far as, coping and finding help. Just for the people in the comments section, you said that there's 100 different mechanisms. Do you have like a list of resources maybe that I could post in the comments section, or something, like a list of resources for someone who maybe doesn't want to reach out, and just something for them to go ahead and look at,
So why don't I don't have something that's written up, but one thing I know is you could go to Google right now, and you could even just go to Google and say, what are the top coping, our top skills for, you know, our mental health or coping mechanisms for mental health, you will get a list. Like there is so much on the internet right now, but if I find something specific, Taj, I'll send it to you so you can post it on Facebook. Okay, and then I'll also, people could follow my socials, the Coach Dar on Instagram and Twitter, and then just Facebook's Darleen Santore. But I always try to share stuff when we're going through this so people could use that as an outlet just to see resources.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next question is, how do we make mental health a topic that is more normalized in sports? I know we touched base on it a little bit, you know, pretty much, you know, just starting a conversation, but what are some of the things that, how, you know, to get rid of the taboo? I mean, you know, I feel like there's a lot more that can be done. You know, I see the commercials. You know, I saw LeBron's Calm app.
Yep.
It's like,
so
you know,
good.
your mentals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's. And I also saw a commercial like the two girls sitting on the couch, and she's like, "Hey, how are you?" Like, you know, you have the quiet moment. You know, to ask them, "Well, how are you?" But how do we normalize it? If, you know, either one of you want to go ahead and try to go ahead.
You want to take it first, then I'll follow up.
Yeah, well, I mean, starting the conversation is the first, right? Like if you know, it's always easier to notice something amiss with other people than with yourself. So if you see somebody and, you know, you could talk about it and kind of make yourself vulnerable at the same time, right? Because people don't want to talk about how vulnerable they are. But if you open up first, you know, if you notice something and you know, say, well, I might not be going through the same thing you are, but here's a vulnerability that I kind of struggle with. That helps people feel more comfortable with starting that conversation, right? Because, but if you're guarded and you're trying to pry information from somebody else, it kind of almost does the opposite, right? Because now they raise that wall up and now they're more guarded because they don't know what you know what you're really trying to do. But if you go out there and start with yourself, especially if you're, you know, a member of a community or a leader like that, a teacher, you know, a coach or anything, if you start the conversation with saying, hey, you're struggling with this. I've struggled with this, you know, for some time. That kind of, it relaxes people. And people, when you're relaxed, it's easier to kind of discuss and not feel like, well, if I say something, I might be attacked.
Right.
So I think, yeah, personal experience, putting your personal experience out there is always a good way to help, just to kind of show people that, yeah, it's tough to talk about, but I'm going to start the conversation just so, you know, you don't have to. And at least that's one way, I think.
Yeah. I mean, just look at how you guys were checking in on each other, like prior to going to Napa and having that conversation. Then you go and you have that real connection through vulnerability, and it changes everything. It makes you so much deeper as friends, and you know, deeper probably than you've ever been because you got real and you had that conversation. So that's where the realness and the depth comes. And I feel like if we could, how we start changing this is by us, just like you said, we all start taking ownership of having the real talks, because once we get real and everyone starts getting real, and it's not just Michael Phelps, and it's not just DeMar DeRozan, and it's not just Kevin Love, but it's all of us talking like mental health is health. It's health. It's health and wellness. Like we all deal with it. We all got to work on it. It's like, you know, where we got to start, and this woman's trying to start it, is when kids go to the pediatrician, they do mental health screenings right there. Like, hey, we're going to check your heart. And by the way, I want to talk to you. How you feeling today? What's going on in your world? You know, questions that they start talking and go, oh, I go for my mental health screening all the time. Every year I get checked, you know, on this. So that becomes the norm. When we start there, then it's going to be like, we could start it, but when we could change the younger generation to start, by the time they're our age, man, mental health is going to be, just like I said, a normal, you know, heart checkup.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the day. Hopefully, you know, we could go ahead and get that thing started. But that is a good idea. You know, starting with the children, just with a simple question. You know, how are you? How are things going? Things like that, and letting them know that they're getting mental health, and that'll go ahead and start chipping away at that taboo, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
and I think even for us, for that person that asked too, which is start really checking in on people. Not just letting it be like, hey, what's up? And that's it. It's like, hey, no, I really want to know you good? Are you good? Like, I'll say to people, how's your heart? How's your heart doing? Like, tell me more. And they know it's not, they can't just give me like, yeah, no, I'm good, Dar. I'm like, no, I want the real, like, are you good? Or is there something you want to talk to? Like, and then they start to know where there's no, you know, I'm not just going to let it slide, because here's the thing. When you're depressed and someone says, hey, you want to go here? You want to do this? What's the first thing you're going to say? No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, nope, no, I don't want to go. Of course not. So you've got to, the other thing too is sometimes you got to help someone, like, no, hey, I showed up at your door because we're going for a walk now. I don't want to go. Yeah, put your sneakers on. We're going. And then once they go and they're talking, so much better.
Yeah, you know, like, I can't really talk about it enough. When I share my story with others, right? Other players that, you know, didn't even come to me and talk to me about stuff, because I felt like, you know, just like the same thing I had with Ike, right? And when we were up in Napa, I want to be able to have that same conversation, you know. So I started talking to all my former players, all my former guys out here in Arizona, and, you know, just start asking them questions, but not the normal questions like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, you catch that game last week, you know, things like that. It's more like, you know, yeah, I tell them what I went through, and then, you know, they might not share their story with me right then and there. You know, we'll be talking over some beers or something like that. You know, he asked me how I'm doing. I'm, you know, well, I went through this. You know, I'm doing good, but, you know, this is what happened to me. You know, and I found that after I shared it, that, you know, guys call me and they start sharing their situations. And then, like, I'm getting calls from guys that I didn't even share my situation with, because they talked to somebody else and they're like, well, yo, maybe you should give Taj a call. Yep. And through this right here, I've also had people that not even in sports, you know, reach out to me through instant messenger and tell me that, you know, they appreciate it. And, you know, we discuss, you know, their problems and mine as well. But it's all about it's therapy, right? It's therapy. I mean, I feel good right now. I mean, I'll probably be up a little late tonight. I don't know. I'm excited. You know, it's but
totally.
You know, definitely, if you're out there and you're wondering what to do, you know, just like we touched base on, a lot of people's situations are different. You know, your hole could be deeper than mine was. You know, but there's people that's out there willing to reach their hands in there and pull you out of that hole. Right? We're all here. You know, we're all here. I'm sure you have a support group that you just didn't tap into yet. You probably have a support group, but you're worried about how they're going to look at you. You know, for some of the men out there, you know, you let your masculinity get in the way of your mental health, which is, you know, there's some people out there that are, you know, families are getting broken up. You know what I mean? There's, you know, people lose jobs, you know, because, you know, they're stuck in bed and they just, you know, they can't get out. I mean, I've heard so many different situations, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? There's light at the end of the tunnel, and, you know, through talking with people, at least from my experience, talking to people, like, you know, playing with my daughter, I said, you know, pick up a new hobby. I could do balloon animals. Right? Yeah, I could do balloon animals and magic tricks. Yeah, I could do balloon animals and magic tricks. So it's like, you know, certain things that, you know, like you pick up to try to keep your mind busy. And, you know, it's, for a while I was thinking about football, and then, you know, football. But then, like, it's like, you know, well, what kind of balloon animal can I make today? How could I amaze Zoe today? You know what I mean? Or how could I put a smile on my wife's face today? You know? And, you know, just starting the day off positive and trying to get my life to a point where the glass is half full, right? See the positive in everything.
That's right.
Preach. That's it. Just preach about your story. Yeah. Even if, you know, it feels like somebody's not being receptive at the time, just showing that you're vulnerable, you know, if they, you know, they look at me, all right, well, he played football, you think about a tough mentality. But if I go out there and I tell people my story, like, listen, I've struggled, I continue to struggle, and some of my kind of struggles go away when I start talking to people,
Right.
you know, when whatever it is that you're talking about. And like Taj said, it's not just, hey man, how was the game? Because I mean, you think about a typical conversation, that's what it is, right? A few people, you see the game last night, you kind of touch on a few things, but you don't really go into your feelings, about what's happening. And that's one of the things, like, I'm kind of jealous of my wife because, she knows how to express her feelings, right? And that's something I've had to learn,
right.
Going through, because that's not something I've practiced. I practice a lot of other things. All right, I've got to master my craft. I got to do A, B, and C. But talking about how I feel and why I feel that, it's not a skill that I had. It's something I've had to work on.
Yeah.
That's real good. Real good.
It's getting kind of past the time.
I know.
But I mean,
we're fired up. I was like, oh man, we're going over because we're so fired up.
It's fine. Things got kind of deep here this evening, and again, I can't emphasize this enough. I understand. You might be watching this right now. You don't even know Antoj, or I haven't talked to you in forever. Just reach out. Reach out. That's the first step. It's the first step, right? Reach out. And if you don't reach out to me, reach out to somebody else.
Yeah.
Reach out to somebody. Have that conversation. Get it going, right? You got to start, you work on your mental conditioning. Work on your mental conditioning. You'll be better. You'll be better for it. But not only you, everybody that's around you will be better for it. Okay. I want to go ahead and thank Ike and Coach Dar for coming today.
Thank you.
And sharing so much with us. It is very beneficial. But I would like, Coach Dar, if you could close us up with some nice positive words, some uplifting, because things got kind of deep today. And,
yes, please. Positivity right now, Coach.
Yeah, it's right at the end of the tunnel, baby.
Let's go. Hey, you know what? Like we just said, I think a lot of it is, remember, your mess becomes your message, your test becomes your testimony, and your pain becomes your purpose. You could use adversity to totally advance you if you want. You have a chance today. Whatever you're dealing with right now, you have the ability to work on it, make it great, and then use your ability to do something that makes you feel like you have purpose again. Because if you are here breathing, you have purpose. I don't want anyone to ever feel like their life has no meaning because you're not Insta famous or you didn't, accomplish something huge. You have purpose and you are already important. You don't need anyone else to determine that for you. Anyone. Like right now, you have greatness within you. It's just whether you choose to show up each day and do something with it. It's a choice. All of us have a choice. And the choice you make determines your outcomes. So make tomorrow when you wake up a better choice, from the way you wake up to put. I want you all to like, I hope Facebook tomorrow is lighting up Taj and they're like, I just put on this jam tomorrow. Or I'm waking up to Tupac. Tupac's been getting me up all week long and I love it. So like, what is it that you're going to wait? It might be something else, but like start positive. Start with your mindset already in a positive state tomorrow. You're going to make the choice. Because if you don't make the choice to take that chance, then something can't change. But you actually have control of that. We don't have to wait for anyone else. I don't care who's running what around here. We get to actually run and control our lives right now. And you get to make it better by the choice you have and the mindset you create. And mental health is mental conditioning. So you start conditioning it tomorrow to be better. You want to have a stronger, bicep. You're going to be working on your bicep curls. You want to have a stronger mindset. You're going to start working on these mindset curls, these exercises to get stronger. And I know silly, like meditation and breath work seems so silly. It's not. I used to think like it was crazy until I got, better at it and start using it with people. It's a game changer if you can get yourself in that place. But there's so many things you can do. But the bottom line is you've got to believe that you actually have the control and you could do something with your life, because you can. So you have purpose, you have meaning. I don't care where you are in your phase in your life, create something great for you today, whatever that's going to be. And then stay in gratitude. Be grateful for the life that we have and where we have, you know, where we are. No matter the circumstances, while they're hard right now, we're able to actually affect change and be here and be alive to do something about it. So like, let's do something with the time we have. So when people read back on us and what we did, it was to make things and ourselves better.
Appreciate that, Coach Dar. Yeah, that's
That was nice.
A good message right there.
Coach Dar just got a comment that came in. Coach Dar is like a modern day Bob Ross of positivity. Love it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We'll come on for another Bob Ross session.
Hey, for sure. We'd love to have, you know, both of you guys back for sure.
Thanks for having us. This was great.
I appreciate you guys. Let's do it again. Let's do it from Napa when we get out of COVID and we can be live somewhere.
Well, will it be in Napa? I'm not sure. Did they move the training facility over to Vegas? I think they said they were going to keep it in Napa, right?
They said 1 year, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll meet up anywhere we can be together and off of Zoom someday.
I think California for sure somewhere and get out.
All right, deal.
That works.
Well, Ike, appreciate you, brother. You know, love to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Coming by. Coach Dar.
Thanks, buddy.
Such a wonderful job today.
Thanks.
You so much.
You guys are great.
I appreciate it.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right, everyone.
Thank
you for joining us.
Thank you.
Taj Tuesday. See you again next week. Have a good one.
Bye.